Hi, welcome to Full Crazy Town, episode 15, all new material. Uh, Hope you're all having an okay day. Thanks be to any of you who may be tuning in. uh, Ever since I finished reading the format of my or the format of my show used to, for the first 10 or 12 episodes was just reading my book. And since then, I've kind of split it up to a half, whatever's happening. I tend to comment on what my favorite commentator podcasters are talking about, and not just like what's in the news. I mean, everybody, all the podcasters are covering what's in the news, but it's their take on the news that I'm especially interested in. I think Keaton and Russ and Matt Taibbi and Walter Kern are four of the best as far as in-depth analysis, really examining what does this mean, not just what's happening. So yeah, I was listening to Walter and Matt talk about the ever since 2015 or so, the great neverminds, how an issue is really big until it's not, and the next really big thing comes along. And they were talking about the Paul Pelosi incident, and they were tying that into like what's happening now with Nancy. Anybody know? I don't know if she pulled through that hip surgery she was scheduled for in Belgium, and then she went to Germany, and nobody's heard from her since, and nobody's talking about it. So anyway, they were talking about how it's just kind of like the narrative du jour, and it's what I'm always talking about. Everybody, it's propaganda. It's theater. It's what J. Fletcher Prouty called the careful planning and orchestration of all the major world events. Well, our propagandists and oligarchs have taken it from being major world events to everyday U.S. red and blue, easily categorized narratives, and it's just cheap. It really makes you not want to even follow the news, as far as the lamestream media. But when I was thinking about Walter and Matt and the great Neverminds, they mentioned some of my favorite, the six gates that I call them: the Russia Gate, Laptop Gate, COVID Gate, Insurrection Gate, Proxy War Gate, and Genocide Gate. But they also threw in some Nord Stream Gate. It was the biggest ecological terrorist attack in the history of the United. Until next, whoa, squirrel, look over there. Don't think about that. Think about this. Same with when it came time to take down Muammar Gaddafi in Libya. Same thing when it came time to take down Bashar al-Assad in Syria, et cetera, et cetera. Every day seems to have the breaking news. And if it's really kind of major, like, the latest terrorist attack, was it in New Orleans? Was it the Tesla? Was it did they work together? They know each other. Were they working alone? Yes, they were. No, they won't. Yet everybody knows terrorism. Protect us. Help. Chaos. Save me. So, it's like the drones, and before that, it's always some cheap ass something that nobody should be paying attention to hardly. Sometimes, I mean, Nord Stream, yeah, but some of these, like the drones and the random terrorist attacks that don't really affect anybody, but like maybe 50 people or so. And that's all. Everything else is breaking news. You need to follow this. You need to pay attention. And what I find that almost everything The blame game has to start, right? Who's responsible? Well, it's the terrorists. Well, that works if it's can be proven, but if it's not, then it's another carefully planned and orchestrated event. And that's what I'm seeing is that it's all this planning and putting people in position to seem like terrorists or putting uh, like the common everyday guy. What's wrong with this scenario, this scene? And Trump in 2015 started running on the immigrants, rapists, terrorists. And anytime you say, rapists or, anything like that, that tends to get the level of eviltude bumped up. So that's what they do. And what I've noticed is, as far as who the 1% wants to blame, so that the other 99% will focus their frustration and anger and attention on something else besides them. So, what I noticed is that the blame game seems to focus on three categories of people: homeless people, poor people, and many, not all, but many immigrants. And so you hear it all the time. I mean, come on. When I'm talking to people and standing in line someplace or in shopping or walking the dogs and stuff, um, almost everybody has a beef against. Well, Eugene does have a big problem with the unhoused, and the media here does the same thing. Oh, what can we do about it? Well, we're powerless. They're just so grubby and demanding money all the time and threatening people with their evil looks. So, the homeless, the poor people, and the many immigrants tend to be easy targets, right? Low hanging fruit. Let's just, focus on them. And then the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, laugh all the way to their banks and corporate coup. But what was I doing? I was walking this. Oh, yeah, I met, who was this? A tech student? Yeah, this is what happened. I was in the dog park and I met two guys, two homeless guys. Um, two guys. One was a long-time homeless person, kind of a scruffy guy, talks real loud and gruff all the time. Even if you say something to him, it kind of and when and another thing, one of those guys. And the other one was an ex-med tech student with a ton of student debt, so he couldn't pay rent. They'll garnish your wages, which is what they were doing. So he didn't have enough money for rent, so he's homeless. So he and the gruff guy are in the dog park. Actually, this is just a city park, but I walk my daughter's dog there often, and they were both just kind of the way the world is, and another thing, and if it wasn't for the homeless and these guys were talking about addicted homeless people. So like they both came from addictions and they were able to kick it. So they can't see why these other homeless people, how come they can't? They should do what I was strong. They're weak. They're the problem with the world. Real hard to get through that. Man, it's hard to penetrate that line of defense. But they were, and I often hear people and a lot of times I went in for a surgical procedure, not surgical, but just a colonoscopy or something. And the med techs are there hanging, trying to hook up the IV and botching it. And, oh, you have roly-poly veins. It's all your fault that we had to take 15 attempts to hook up your IV. And Oh man, talk about James Brown. I break out in a cold sweat. Man, it's happened 3 out of the last 4 times. I've tried to get an IV hookup. Botch, botch, roly poly, it's all your fault. Ow, ow, ow. Traumatized. But this guy was just talking about, events or, how is it living in Eugene? Well, if it wasn't for all those homeless, said, man, they're probably addicted. They can't help it. Desperate people do desperate things. Sorry if they're pissing you off, but why are you talking to me about it? Why are you trying to vent at me about homeless people? It's like people tee off on the immigrants, like Trump does, or anybody else does now that so many big cities have been flooded with immigrants of all types. That's why I say many immigrants. Most are, desperate people fleeing oppression and economic sanctions caused by the U.S. in their home country. That's why they're here. And then poor people, and it's rich people that blame poor people. Why can't they be like me? I made it on my own, whether they did or not. So anyway, it's the blame game, and liberals, conservatives, red and blue, so many people get suckered into thinking that homeless people, poor people, and many immigrants are the only problem. If we just could solve that problem, then everything would be just fine. Right. Okay, so after last week, I stayed tuned. I imagine anybody that's watching this video is going to switch right over to Do Dissidents afterwards because quite quite frankly, Keaton and Russ have about the best game in town. So last week, Keaton was talking about Trump and the H-1B visas for high skilled workers. Did you see that one? Hilarious. Yeah, high skilled. They had one guy got a visa and he was a Chippendale dancer, right? Male stripper. Yeah, high skill, those guys. But yeah, high skill, low skill, medium, no skill for some of them. But anyway, it's being used as this wedge issue again to mainly get cheap labor in this country. If you can't get slavery, what's the next best thing? Slave wages. So that's what has been the game ever since the Civil War and before. Bad for workers, said Trump. But Trump says I use it. He's a capitalist. It's good for me is bad for you. Trump comes right out and tells it like it is, especially since he got winged in the ear, almost blew his head apart. I've noticed he really is. He always kind of told it like it was, but now there's this edge that he didn't care. Like you tried to take me out and you failed, so I'm coming back at you with all I got. He's still putting a lot of those Pompeo-like neolibs and neocons into his cabinet, but he also is, making I don't know noises through Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. about maybe making things different. We'll see. I'm not making any predictions from this guy. That's what Putin said about Trump. He said, I can't predict him. I'd rather have Biden win. This is back when Biden was running. So now we have Musk and Vivek Ramashiba, or Shiba, what's his name? Shiva. Yeah, Ramashiba. Sparring with the Doge. What is that? The dollar only efficiency or something like that. I don't know. It's the new world order of money that Musk and Vivek want to push on everybody. But the DOGE efficiency is at odds with Srinam Krishnam. Who is that? County cops for green cards. Country, what? Propaganda or fact? I'm not really sure what. A lot of times I think, well, I'll remember. I'll just write this down. But it was interesting, mainly about how the H-1B visas are not being used to get all these uh, skilled workers in for high tech jobs. It's not it, not it. Don't listen to Musk and Vivek, because all they want are people, more workers willing to work for slave wages. And slavery, let us remember, is the main name of the game. You can get people to work for slave wages, or uh, have actual slavery. All the better for your the bottom line. um, so Elon says, I will go to war for the H-1B visas. Keaton comes back and says, this is a mild example of racism, anti-Indian, border hawk MAGAs. I guess that has to do with immigrants. Yeah, border hawk MAGAs. To deregulate now. God, I use initials and I have no idea what. Oh, Elon Musk, EM. Now Elon Musk makes an issue of it. Elon Musk, talk about power, killed the spending bill. It took him about a couple hours, I believe. It was just a couple weeks ago. So Elon says that the game plan is to get Trump in. And that was the election, and then deregulate. Try to get rid of the woke DEI/ESG. And so, again, this is the Democrats. Really, it's their only platform, because when you talk DEI, ESG, you're talking race and sexism, gender issues, LGBTQIA plus plus plus. But now, for the first time, really, the DEI/ESG crowd, the regulations are out of vogue. They're not completely out, but they're starting to fade. And they started to fade, it really seems like, with the genocide in Gaza, because before that, you had the trans rights activists at the top of what I describe as the pyramid of power, what Norm Finkelstein calls the suppression or oppression sweepstakes. And I think Keaton calls it the oppression Olympics. See, so great minds think alike. Anyway, I'm carrying water for those guys. Anyway, it is going out of vogue for the first time ever, and well, I think I made note. I made note of it here as some examples, and I might have said some of them in last week's. But anyway, the screw starts to turn and go back the other way. A lot of times I'll make my own comments here while I'm writing down something Keaton or Russ said. And I don't know why I said this in response to the DEI, ESG, especially middle management, because a lot of these corporations had quotas. You had to have a diverse middle management that would whip all the lower workers into shape as far as respecting diversity, and that's more important than production or making a quality product or service, right? Yeah, diversity. Well, a lot of these companies, I think Anheuser-Busch, think of Harley Davidson, went full down the DEI diversity alleyway and found out it was a dead end street. And a lot of corporations now are dropping those quotas, dropping those departments, firing the diversity experts. So it's starting to happen just because it's like what Disney tried to do with their Pixar shows. They started inserting all of this diversity, LGBTQ stuff, and the kids, the parents, nobody liked it. They have spent all of 2023 and 24 bleeding money, just losing money by the billions. And DeSantis made a big deal of it in Florida, and then the workers in Anaheim. I think I talked about this last week. Were suing Disney for back wages or for not paying overtime or something, but like hundreds of millions of dollars. Anyway, I made a comment about. I think it was about how stupid some of the diversity experts were when it came time to run a company, not just berate everybody into respecting diversity, but to actually try to turn a profit. I don't know. I don't know why I said this line from Animal Houses. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son. And then I wrote, well, they wanted us to not do our own research. So we were trying to be educated and not fat, drunk, and stupid when, like my split with my family and friends came shortly after they started making fun of Joe Rogan for taking ivermectin. And he just said it worked for him. He wasn't up on a soapbox. You need to listen to me. All these people, the COVID and Fauci are all just trying to make you sick or whatever. Anyway, another Dilbert is Scott Adams, who wrote Dilbert, and he's big on the DEI ESG stuff, and I guess he's kind of like doubling down now about you have to stand by these people, they are the future. Bizarro world. Musk could give a fuck about the average person or diversity. He's profit motivated. He really just wants to make money, and he's just given lip service, just like the government gives lip service to healthcare or anti-war efforts or peace, love, and equality. Yeah, lip service. But maybe Elon thinks it's more like, look at these racists threatening my income. So yeah, I'm not sure why I wrote that. MAGA realizes the culture war signaling was a lie. So see, that's where MAGA never did really buy into the race and gender issues. They've always been about the bottom line. They're hurting. They're poor. They can't afford a $500 emergency if something popped up. One paycheck away from poverty. But yeah, the MAGA realizes the culture war signaling, that's like your virtue signaling, was a lie, and that the politicians only care about themselves. Musk and Vivek again globalist neo-libs, the borders are just lines on a map. Now, I do remember why I wrote that, because I've heard other people say this, that globalists aren't about countries. They're about profits, about doing business back and forth between businesses and banks, that there's transactions between countries and banks, but there's no real significance as far as patriotism. Those in charge, the politicians, they want you to be patriotic, and they use certain wedge issues to try to make you trust them and want them, or turn to them for protection. But yeah, just lines on a map. And what they want to do is move labor to the lowest cost zones. So you have Southeast Asia, Bangladesh, several African countries, some of your border countries on the coastal countries for easy shipping, often have all these manufacturing hubs. And one thing I was, I talk a lot about podcasters and about how some are just saying, don't you know how serious this is? Why am I the only one that knows what's going? And I really don't listen to them too much. And then I like the ones that, like Russ and Keaton, that do more analysis and in depth, like how did we get to this point? What can we do about it? How were we propagandized or duped, or how were we split into progressive and non-progressive zones of fighting and opposition? Grr. I'm still estranged from family and friends and acquaintances. I met this guy in the dog park the other day, and he's like, only one that actually thinks the way some of our favorite podcasters think. Here in Eugene is just the shit lib capital of the world, California notwithstanding. So what? Oh, Russ was falling into that trap about what I try to think about podcasters. They're preaching to the choir. And so when I hear Russ say, they don't care about you, what I come right back with, sometimes I'm talking back to the computer screen. I go, Russ, they don't care about us. They don't care about you either. You don't have to like point your finger and yell and get all angry. They don't care about us. And so like, it's kind of like the ones that like podcasters who say, why am I the only one that realizes it? And that's kind of what Russ does sometimes. And other people do it too. George Carlin, remember? It's a big club and you ain't in it. So there is that urge to educate the uneducated. But my point is that these podcasters are preaching to the choir. That's pretty much why when I'm podcasting, I'm trying to get behind the news, the why, the wherefore, the what the F can we do now. So then I wrote, not for high-skilled workers. Oh, yeah, the H-1B visas are not really for the high-skilled workers from India that Vivek is trying to convince everybody. That's, you Americans, we told you should be getting into science and technology and engineering and math, and you didn't do it. So now we got to bring my brainiac friends from India. But no, it's not for that. It's for cheaper labor, cheaper workers, like the Chippendale dancer. Trump's support, EM and Vivek, Well, I don't know why I did that. Well, everybody knows there that's where his support comes from. Government has always intervened, but usually not for workers. It's more like Lucy and the football. Come on, pay your taxes, get 2 or 3 jobs. Buy into the American dream, and I won't snatch the American dream out from in front of you and cause you to nearly kill yourself. Anyway, that's government intervention for you, a rigged system. MAGA, the MAGA people actually want Adam Smith's invisible hand of economics to work for them, not against them. And even Adam Smith was pro worker. He was not saying the invisible hand is just going to take millionaires to become billionaires, to become trillion. No, that wasn't Adam Smith. Yeah. So Adam Smith would have been in favor of immigration reform. So immigration is more important than Bezos's paying no taxes, say the MAGA workers, right? They think that we need to have, well, like some of those immigrants that came in were actual criminals, and many of them were desperate, poor thieves who were just rounded up and sent out, and they're dumped in the middle of these big cities with no support. Desperate people do desperate things. So yeah, but actually now this is what especially Russell was getting into last Sunday, that the MAGA people are just being short-sighted. They're projecting onto Trump. Oh, now that he's going to bring the jobs back, just like he didn't do in West Virginia. But anyway, people are desperate. Many of them think you have to vote for somebody, even if it's an anti-Democrat vote, by voting Trump. A lot of people are just so frustrated and desperate that they would rather vote against a horrible system as they see it, instead of voting for somebody or something, some program, system that might benefit them. So then it's not a level playing field, that's for sure. Russ said, "You're not living in a democracy." True, but it's we, Kimosabe. This is what I'm just trying to counter every time somebody starts pointing fingers at the camera and saying, you, they don't care about you, you're not, it's us, right? We're all in this together, right? You don't have to be scolding or pointing or raising your voice, or you're preaching to the choir. We, Kimosabe. You're preaching to the choir. We're getting screwed is the point, not you're getting screwed. We're getting screwed. That's the only way to think about this. If we're all going to come together, general strike, the workers stop working, the consumers stop consuming, capitalism grinds to a halt. It could happen. What did Steve Bannon called it? Tech feudalism. Anytime you call any system today like the feudal system, that's spot on. These overlords expect you to bend a knee to them and pledge fealty. That's what they expect. They don't want I pledge allegiance to the flag. They want I pledge allegiance to the oligarch. And then right in the middle of that is when they. I was listening, I think, to some mainstream news, and just when Bannon said it's tech feudalism, the word came out that Jimmy Carter died at 100. another, hot and cold president who ran hot, ran cold. Elon threatened. Here's how he beat the spending bill. This is just, look, we talk about how the Jewish lobbies threatened to primary any congressperson that doesn't play ball with them. Every congressperson gets thousands of dollars. Here's a gift from your friends in Israel. And vote the way we want you to, or next time you have a primary, every 2 years for the House, we'll spend unlimited money getting you sent back to where you came from. So Elon Musk threatened to primary Republicans if they voted for the spending bill. See, just like the Jewish lobbies, that's all you got to do. Threaten, coerce, bribe, terrorize. It's just it's a capitalist coup. Keaton Weiss says, how long will Trump be willing to play second fiddle to Elon? This all has to be worked out. Nobody that I've heard is making any kind of prediction that I can put any faith in, just because of the transitory up and down, hot and cold tendency of the narrative of the day. And if it's a big enough narrative, that New Orleans attack, notice how that happened right after a similar attack. I think it was in Spain about a week earlier. And I swear these events are being carefully planned and orchestrated. And when that New Orleans started, whoa, is he a terrorist? Was he working alone? Yes, he was. No, he wasn't. Oh, he knows the Tesla bomber. Oh, they work on the same military base. It's like Fauci. Fauci would come on every day and say something different, and then say something, and I only lied for your own good. And if you believe that, you're a chump. So I didn't believe it, and I'll bet most of the people tuning into Due Dissidence, maybe they believed it then. I got vaccinated and double boosted, and my whole family was, oh, Fauci, we must put our faith in Fauci, our trust, our allegiance. Keaton, what? 20? Oh, well, here's what, Keaton was commenting about 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden cheering for Elon Musk. And so that's why he said, how long will Trump be willing to play second fiddle? Musk is very popular with the MAGA crowd. Here's a House of Cards. But Keaton, and I agree with him, says it's a fraudulent movement. They are celebrating their subjugation. It's a house of cards destined to fall apart. MAGA and shit libs. Now, this is where you can really spread the blame. MAGA and shit libs are doomed to fail. There's space for compromise. MAGA will split. Disappointed Dems will split. Whither they go. Again, time will tell. But all the major podcasters that we listen to are now saying, whoa, all of a sudden, everything we've been saying for the last 5 to 8 years, bing, bing, check the box, check, 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 check. So, yeah, it's newfound prosperity and publicity. They're still saying, Glenn Greenwald and Max Blumenthal are Russian agents and boogity boo, but they really can't just go around canceling like they were so easily before, like with Alex Jones and then Trump. And then they started on the left. First of all, they went in there and busted up the Cop City protest, firing 150 bullets into this kid's tent. Oh, man. And there's been other things too. I mean, the left, the Uhuru 3 in Orlando, Florida, they were found to be not guilty, but they were under threat as Russian agents for about a year. What is, let's see, what have tweeted culture? Yeah, Vivek is all about bootstrap philosophy. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. And so he says, in this country, prom queens and jocks are celebrated over people with brains and science, tech, engineers, and math. But there is such a thing as nerdy cool already. I don't know who mentioned it, but they mentioned Sandra Bullock in the 90s. Oh, I think it was Vivek talking about that. And somebody said Vivek is behind the curve. In the movie Whiplash, a deranged teacher tortured the drum player must live in fear of authorities, like Revenge of the Nerds, circa 2025. So that's what Vivek is going for. He's going for, instead of having DEI committees, he's going to have nerd committees. Nerdy cool. If communism doesn't work, how come China is sticking it to us? Huh? Right? Communists, bad. Hey, now their economy's about to outdo ours. They're part of the BRICS plus 5. We're not. We're on the way down. They're on the way up. And however long we can maintain this is up for grabs too. I mean, I'm really thinking that a major, and other people have said this, another major economic downturn is coming. It's going to cost people jobs. It's going to crank up inflation. It's going to put more people on the street. So now we have something called tech bro hippieism. I don't know who came up with that, but the idea is to hit the books, says Vivek, live off the grid, produce for us. And basically you're picking a billionaire here. Who do you want to like? Who do you want to hate? You've got leftist billionaires and right billionaires. And so, love one, hate the other. Carbon necessarily are lazy. What? Fat and lazy. I don't know. He's an anti-woke crusader. That must be Vivek. Pick a billionaire anyway. That it's like you got to serve someone. Why not just pick a billionaire? Vivek gets on with the culture war issues. Russ says that Vivek should separate country and state, and that, let's see. And Russ, was this Russ that said reverse racism is still racism? He's a culture warrior, and it must be about Vivek again. And he was talking about that 20,000 people in Madison Square Garden. And when, I don't know, I can't remember if it was Musk or Vivek said, capitalism lifts up humanity from poverty. There's very little applause for capitalism. So that's why he sticks with the culture war issues. He gets more applause and avoids economics. So Russ asks, who is the enemy? Who is our enemy? China or the capitalists? This is what capitalism is. Nixon and Reagan basically gave the tech bro what paint job. What does that mean? I don't know what I'm saying. Changed capitalism into making you think you won something, whereas they own everything. Can't vote your way out of this. Can't figure it out. The only power anymore, as far as capitalists go, is with the workers. That's why they're anti-worker, anti increasing the minimum wage. Yeah, no, it's all too beautiful. Let me see. Well, I don't really have a ton of stuff. I did take some more notes here. Let me just look here and see what I. Oh, I know. One thing I talked about, I think in the book, I talked about Jerry Seinfeld and the use of the term Pop-Tarts, referring to underage girls used in sex trafficking or sex slavery or, dating. Pop-Tarts. And then he was the executive producer for a whole movie. I don't know if it was animation, Pixar, or what, about Pop-Tarts. Totally panned, totally stupid, totally worthless. Nobody saw it, but a few people liked it because they kind of think it's cute to have the term Pop-Tarts. Yeah, cute little girls. Just pop them in your mouth. But so there was a Pop-Tarts bowl game in Orlando. It was just before New Year's. I couldn't believe it. I should by now. But yeah, Pop-Tarts bowl. Jerry Seinfeld probably sponsored that too. But yeah. And even this is number 18 Iowa University versus number 13 Miami. You had the you had Pop-Tarts advertised during commercials, of course. You also had Pop-Tarts mascots, 3 different ones representing the 3 different types of Pop-Tarts. And they were having like a halftime competition, running the ball and chasing each other and tackling. Oh, aren't they cute? Aren't they funny? Makes me hungry. Absolutely sick, sorry, and sad. It came out that Elon's worth 400 billion now. I think that's an updated figure. I do believe in my book he was the world's richest person at the time a couple years ago, but I don't think I had him at 400 bills. I think I had him more like just under 200. So most of this is coming from the government contracts for his Starlink technology and his spaceship technology covering up for NASA's and Boeing's fuck ups. Well, I was talking about how the pronouns it are used. It and they are used by a lot of the trans rights activists. and a lot of them are just, great people, of course, but the activists tend to be the ones that push their philosophy, their agenda, their uh, way that they want everyone to think. And so when I was thinking, well, these people are pretty strange. So maybe when it comes to pronouns, it is a pretty good way to describe them. They are like a thing that's hard to categorize for sure. Somewhere, somebody was talking about Oppenheimer and his quote when the first atomic bomb was detonated: "I am become death, destroyer of worlds." And they said he was proficient in Sanskrit. And I don't know if that's like before he became destroyer of worlds or after, but he used to give copies of the Bhagavad Gita to friends. And I don't know, there's a lot of strange ass things going on out there. And we're quite frankly just starting to scratch the surface of how deep it goes. The guy that I met in the dog park had the same philosophy that I did about. I found myself quoting Cat Williams to him, and Cat Williams is quoted in my book quite a bit about his predictions about in 2024 all lies will be revealed, and he was talking about Diddy and Hollywood and Epstein and underage trafficking and weirdness, Hollywood weirdness, the back to the old Charles Manson thing and the book Chaos and the MK Ultra. Weird. Hard for me to even talk about it. I think that's one thing I wanted just to write it down so I could just forget about it and not have it right up in my cortex all the time. But I was quoting about Cat Williams and the Knights Templar, and I've been reading up more about them. It's hard to get good information just because Wikipedia is so compromised. And I have asked around other podcasters about their sources, but I don't know. I mean, podcasters, they're busy. Sure, we'll take $5 a month. That's not much money. I don't do research for you for $5 a month. I can understand that. It's still, I just kind of wonder more about, the Knights Templar and how they became affiliated with the Freemasons and how both those groups came from the Illuminati, which probably started, some people think 10,000 years ago or 100,000 years ago when we had superior beings on Earth. And maybe they were, the Egyptians were visited by the extraterrestrials who taught them technology that enabled them to levitate the stones of the Great Pyramid into place. But yeah, this guy knew all about Baphomet and the Knights Templar and secret societies. I mean, that's kind of in a word, a phrase, what everybody wants to be a part of, right? Rich, powerful, great vision for the world. Yes, we just want peace and prosperity for everybody. Sure, we do. If you believe that, I've got a swamp you can build a house on. But it's I mean, it's same as it ever was, and when I say ever was, I really mean possibly hundreds of thousands of years. There's so much more going on than what the average person thinks the real deal is, and it's just not going to get much better before it gets a whole heck of a lot worse, no doubt. I think the U.S. government is spending $1 trillion every 90 days, I believe, is the way it goes. And that just jacks up the national debt. National debt now costs $1 trillion per year just to service the debt, and it's unsustainable. Inflation is already climbing out of control. The mainstream media, of course, says, oh, the economy is great, everything's fine, everything's dandy. No need to be upset, worried, or concerned. So if you believe that, then that's because you want to believe, and you maybe have you're just overwhelmed. I can totally understand. I mean, people get overwhelmed. Um, they tend to just kind of shut down. They hear no evil, see no evil, speak no, feel no evil. Like I've said before, it's a tough world, and I just feel bad for my grandson, 8 years old. My daughter, early 40s. Um, it's just the American dream is kind of being pushed out of reach, and if people don't have a rock solid foundation, and I mean generational wealth, inherited wealth, it's really hard to make it on your own, to get that bootstrap mentality, pull yourself up by the bootstraps in place. But I do want to get off in plenty of time. Anybody needs a bathroom break before Keaton and Russ come on. Tune in, take notes, because I'm going to be talking next week about what these guys are talking about today. And not all of their segments are not ground shaking. A lot of times it is just, this happened, here's our reaction to it. And there's not a whole lot of behind the scenes commentary. But today I listened to Matt and Walter's first this week podcast, and they were really into the great Nevermind, how a story is just huge until it's not. And the idea is just breaking story, panic, terror, danger, and we'll save you. And it's just so obviously planned and orchestrated that I'm surprised more people don't see it or don't raise their tiny fists against it. They just roll over and accept things the way they are and don't make waves. Well, you need to make waves. Basically, when you talk to people, let them know you either fight the power or you are being complicit with the power. A or B, brother, sister, up or down, black or white. There's no fence sitting here. Fight the power or you're complicit. So, with that happy note, guys, hope you have a good week. Anybody who is listening, stay tuned for Due Dissidence, and see you next week. Bye now.